Hey everyone, and welcome to F4 Obsessed, a deep dive, a weekly show where we discuss F4 Thailand from a symbolic and meta perspective. I'm Ty, your host, and my co-host is Marie Claire, who I call MC. Say hi, MC.
Hi.
Hi. We are Hana Yori Dango fans, and we truly adore this story. So we have some things to get into, I think. This was...
Yeah. It was big. But first, Ty, how was your week?
It was very, very busy, to say the least.
And we thought that the trailer week was busy.
Yeah, the trailer week interrupted our week. First of all, like right in the middle of the week, we got that trailer, so we quickly recorded something, and it was insane. This week, we kind of created our own chaos.
Okay, but like I've been doing my own thing, which is like memes and like comparing this story to Raylo a lot. Like that's my thing on Twitter, like doing threads and occasional chatting with people. You yourself did not one, not two, but three supreme edits.
I did. So I think
two in one day.
I did. Yes, I did two in one day. I was just waiting between the gap between episodes is so difficult to deal with. Like it's so hard, and everybody knows this, that's obsessed as we are, that it's really hard to get through the week. So on Monday, it was Evelyn Wilder in our comments section on YouTube, and she said in a comment about the honey badger video, and it's like this meme video that's been around for years. I'd seen it at some point, and she dropped it in the comment. She was like, "This is all I can think about," and I watched it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna make an edit of Tom, but he's the honey badger."
As the honey badger, and it is explicitly funny.
It's funny. Died the whole time I was making it. I was cracking up, and I was like, no one's gonna find this funny. Like, this is so silly, this is so stupid, but I thought it was hilarious, so I posted it, and
like not 2 seconds later, Papa was posted about the honey badger symbolism. Right. And about the honey badger doll that they brought in for this, kind of like just all of the fandom stuff, deep digging, like, couldn't we get the honey badger, and like proving kind of all of us right that like this was something that they specifically brought in for the show to represent Tom.
And he said something. He said something even like the beast within, like you can never get rid of the beast within. Like there was so many things there that we explicitly were talking about.
And we were like, validation, and then we were like, and wait, you just posted these things like minutes away from each other. And then everybody saw him post and was like not even waiting for his replies, where he did Google Translate. He's like, sorry for my English, it's not very good, so here's some Google Translate of what I said. And we're like, oh my god, this is great. But then everybody was replying, being like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this?
It was like it was seconds after he posted 3 replies. Every single one of them was linking to my edit, which I was horrified by, because like this is not the stuff I kind of do typically. It's like, I swear we like do all these really big brain stuff, and here's like this edit of like with explicit language in it and stuff that I don't typically promote. But again, I thought it was hilarious, and other people did too. And they were sharing it with him, and he saw it. And so he went to my post, and he actually commented under it, and he said, wow, just saw your post. And then he retweeted it. And then he also, because I responded to him, like, just, typical stuff, like, thank you so much for your work. We're having so much fun with the show. Like, thank you kind of thing. And he actually liked that as well. So it was really cool. And that was like, I have this tweet now. I actually bought an acrylic photo frame on Amazon. It got here today. I'm going to frame this tweet, and I'm going to put it on my desk, and it's going to be awesome. So it was such a cool interaction. And I also made another edit later, I think it was like the day after, I don't remember, but I think it was on Tuesday. Yeah, I did.
Our friends had been some mutuals who are talking about this show, talked about how much it's Beauty and the Beast, which we've talked about from the beginning of the show as well, but they actually took the scene where the Beast, it's like winter and he's got the birds on him, and like compared it to Tom with the birds on him at the zoo. And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this.
So I made like a 14-second edit with that verse from the song, and it was just really funny. And then later that day I got really excited and I was like, MC, I'm gonna do an edit where it's like a 1990s rom-com or 1990s romantic comedy, but a trailer. And I'd never done anything like that before. So MC got Kyle, her husband,
my husband,
to voice.
He does voiceover work and like just for fun or for like audio dramas and stuff like that. And he's also acts for fun. And so he did the voiceover and it's perfect.
It's so good. I had so much fun making that. It was great. And again, like, the reason I'm telling you guys all this is because we had so many interactions and it was so much fun talking about the show and kind of just getting over our weekly blues, having to wait between episodes and whatnot. So that was really fun. So if you haven't already, like, come hang out with us on Twitter.
Fun and chaos.
We
did. It didn't even take the trailer. That was us just being chaos. Well, you primarily being chaotic and me cheering you on and like bringing you like water bottles and being like, you got this, Ty. Yeah.
It was really fun. So yeah, make your own fun and come hang out with us on Twitter because we like talking about this throughout the week. It makes it so much fun. All right, so let's do our comments review. So yeah, the fandom is super fun right now. Our last, super fun. Our last video, we went into the astrology, and I know very much like about like the very light astrological things. So we had a listener, their name is Zoha Batul, and they commented this really, really long analysis about their kind of take of the astrology. And it's really, really in depth. It's really interesting. And I pinned it. So if you want to read more about that, please go check out that comment. It's at the top of the comment section on the last episode, which would be episode 6.
So Solo Pang said, side note, the Safari World Zoo said that there were many messages from overseas and in Thailand asking to purchase the honey badger doll. Of course, they don't sell it in the gift shop because the creator of the show brought their own honey badger to the location. Again, purposeful, symbolic storytelling, making very purposeful choices to say something. Yeah. And there are some like bright fans of the show that are upset that Tom is being referred to as a honey badger. Like some. Really? Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
They don't like it because he's a tiger to them. Like they use the tiger emoji.
Oh, but he's like both. But I mean,
but the thing is, like, he's a many animaled beast. That's the thing. Like, he is not just one thing. And if you actually look at the beast from Beauty and the Beast, he's actually made up almost chimera-like of different types of animals. Yeah. And that's really, really actually important because if he is a many beast animal, then he can transform. And that actually ties into some of the symbolism and meta of something that happens in this episode. So
yeah, totally.
Don't get upset about that. Also, validation to look into this show as deeply as you want to.
Yes, 100%. It was really cool to see that. It happened very quickly after the episode as well. And it was funny seeing the actual messages from the zoo. I saw them on Twitter that the zoo was like, we're so sorry.
We don't sell this.
It was really funny. Yeah. So that was totally intentional. Random commented, they did their own breakdown. They did a very, very long breakdown of the names. It's a very deep dive. They go into multiple names. I was only able to kind of grab this one part of it. So please go check out their comment on our previous video where they have a whole analysis of what the names mean. And this particular one that I got is about Tom's name. So I'm going to try to read this without butchering it too much. They say that Akira Paramantra, which I don't know how to say that.
Paramantra.
Yeah, it's really hard. Means sun in Thai. Akira means sun in Thai. The interesting part is that the sum of the name is equal to 33. In Thailand, we have an astrologer who will calculate our name based on the day we were born and pick the most suitable name for that day. The first name will usually come with the number calculation system. They say, I don't know how it works, but the system shows how a name can be good or bad. The number 33 associates directly to violence. People with the first name of number 33 will have characteristics of being hot-headed and easily irritated. They will often encounter fights and also accidents. They also love their peers. In relationship aspects, they have to fight for it.
Wow.
And then the last name, which I cannot pronounce, Parama means enormous, and Anantra means infinite. The surname is sure powerful, like his family.
Wow.
Tom in Thai means ranking, status, or prestige. So it's the meanings for this are just, it blows my mind. There's so many ways to look at this. There's so many meanings you can tease out of it, and they all fit with the character. It's really cool.
So cool.
All right, so let's go to our next comment from H. White.
Yes. So this one came in super late this week. Like we were like, oh, comments seem to be dying down. People have kind of said their thoughts and discussed a lot between the comments. And we really love these comments. So thank you so much, everyone, for leaving all of your thoughts.
Absolutely.
But H. White said, so not trying to create extra work for you, but I keep thinking about how Star Wars has made its own machete order. I can discuss ad nauseum the different variations that exist if you're considering the sequels and standalones. But what is the best way you would recommend watching the Hana Yori Dango adaptations? Viewing order for a newcomer. And I'm not going to consider the musicals in this, but I do think that they are important because we will discuss them at a later point.
Yes, we will. They don't have subs, so we can't recommend them to a newcomer. But once you go down the rabbit hole, it's something that's exciting. I have my order. Did you? I wrote yours.
I wrote it down. I feel like mine is like I enjoy chaos. So
I have to hear yours first. Please tell us.
So I think you should start with like after reading the manga, because I feel like the manga is really, really important. You should watch the anime because it is the most like manga to moving direct, version. I then think that you should watch Hana Yori Dango because it will make you go like, okay, this is a short format. Then you should watch the next short format, which is Korean Boys Over Flowers, and go, and then you should watch Meteor Garden 2001 because you need Meteor Garden 2001 to truthfully appreciate my favorite adaptation before this Thai one, which is Meteor Garden 2018. Which gives you all of the plot points of the anime and the manga. Like all of them. But you can understand a lot more why they aged them up and why they changed some of the plot.
Oh, interesting. We have 2 of these in common. 2 of the 5. Okay, so I would recommend watching the anime first, obviously, because it's basically the manga.
It's basically the manga. And if you don't have time to read all 250 chapters of the manga, you can watch the anime. Yeah,
but important to note is like the ending is not the manga ending because the manga was still being written when the anime came out.
That is actually also really important into my points, which is none of the versions had the completed text before 2018. I'm just gonna say that.
So none of them had the ending of the manga. So and it's interesting because what happens is like the anime does something with the end, and then the next one I would recommend, me personally, is actually the 2001 Meteor Garden version, because I feel like it honors the manga as much as it can. So you get to see those like parallels and you get to see, you know, the same scenes that you just saw in the anime, but now it's live action. I also just have like a soft spot for Jerry Yan. So I'm just like, oh, I love him so much as Daming So. Like, I don't know. There's something about his performance is very nostalgic, even though I didn't watch it when I was a kid, you know, it's just something that gets into my heart. So I would recommend that. And then because the ending is also similar to the anime, because they kind of just took some of the notes from the anime. Yeah. Because again, the manga wasn't done yet. And then the next one I would recommend is actually the Boys Over Flowers version.
Okay.
Because it is so different and they change it so much.
But yet it follows the plot points.
Right. But yet it follows like, it's kind of a little bit more long form.
Yeah. It's like a mix between that and like Hana Yori Dango. It's like,
yeah, it's kind of a mix. It takes some notes from the 2005 version, but I would watch it before. It's also
more melodramatic than any of the other versions, just because it really adapted into the Korean sort of cultural pop culture of the times, which was super melodramatic.
Exactly. And I think it's good to watch kind of in the middle because it's annoying. I agree. It's just a bit annoying. So yeah, Boys Over Flowers, South Korea, 2009 version, right in the middle. And then after that, I would watch the Hana Yori Dango 2005 version because it's short form. And I think it kind of takes you back to like what the manga was in a way, but it's totally different plot wise. And then after that, I would watch the Meteor Garden 2018 version because that's like more all encompassing, like you said, and like you kind of appreciate what the previous versions have done once you get to that point. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's very similar to with Star Wars saying in release order is like the best order, but I feel like both of us.
There is a benefit to actually watching in timeline order too, which is interesting. I think we agree on like you almost need to view Boys Over Flowers in the middle to kind of understand where it was at the time.
Yes.
And like the anime at the beginning, Meteor Garden at the end. I could go either way with Hana Yori Dango and Meteor Garden 2001.
Yeah.
Like I could go either way. Like if you're really into a long format one, watch it earlier, but it is really important to watch that one before you watch 2018 because there's literally like cameos in it. There's things that happen in 2001 that happened in 2018 that like they took from it, and it also ages up the characters, so you kind of understand the reasons behind their changes, especially to understand sort of Chinese cultural authority changes too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Either way, I would kind of say like, what do you have time for? If like, you know, cause like, if you're like, I only have time for 20 episodes, watch Hana Yori Dango, right? If you're like, I have time for 24 episodes, watch Boys Over Flowers. If you're like, I'm sitting down and I've got time to watch all 47, 8, whatever episodes of Meteor Garden 2018.
Oh my God. Yeah. Lord. And it's hard to follow the 2001 version because it's in 2 parts. Plus there's also Meteor Rain in the middle. So it's like, that's difficult to follow.
They changed some of the stuff too in Meteor Rain, but like,
yeah. It's again, like MC said, it just kind of depends on like what you're up for at the time.
How much energy do you have to stick with this? Can you handle the coconut plot in Meteor Garden 2018 this time?
Oh God. Like I skip it every time. I cannot deal with it.
But you get the most adorable Shansei and Daming Si scenes during that plot.
Yeah, but you can see that coming. So you like just skip just enough and then you stop and then you watch and then you skip again. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was fun. So I also wanted to give a shout out to the Bright fan club, the US fan club specifically, because I've been talking with them in my DMs and they're really great. They do a lot of projects. I just thought people would want to know because if you've, fallen down this rabbit hole as I have, you've probably seen his other work. You probably watched some interviews with him. He's just an interesting human being. And the fan club does charity work on behalf of him, and they have gotten like interactions with him on Twitter. So he sees what they're doing and he enjoys their work. And it's just really cool. They also did the thing where they like buy food for the actors while they're on set. They did something like that recently and they got it done. And even though they're in the US, like they're able to do that kind of stuff. So it's just really cool. So please follow them on Twitter. Their @is BBRIGHTVCUSFC. So follow them and they're awesome. All right. So I posted this also on Twitter this week because I was kind of delving into some classic storytelling, archetypical psychology and stuff. And I really wanted to kind of tease out these characters a little bit more because we keep talking about how Bright or how Tom is like this baby king, right? You've said it a lot and it's really important. It's really important to kind of talk about like what that means and like what that is. So just kind of this overview of archetypes, and we will talk about this on the show going forward and tease out some other aspects of this, but a kind of an overview of what archetypes are. Generally, archetypes have always been around since the dawn of time. It was really kind of started being studied and written down with like Plato and Platonic archetypes, where he saw like these patterns and stories.
But then Jung kind of took them and started to apply them to a psychology, because at the same time as Jung was doing his work, there was also an advancement in philosophy, anthropology, linguistics, all at the same time, called the structuralist movement, or really emphasizing structuralism, that because we're all humans, we all kind of have a baseline structure underneath us. And this comes out in our collective storytelling because of the collective unconscious associated with all of us being humans. And Jung took that. So Carl Jung, the psychologist, took that and really started to identify it with not only the external myths and stories that we tell, but our internal stories that we tell inside of our dreams, inside of the myths we tell ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, which is our unconscious. And he found that there was a lot of commonalities behind them. And why this is important is that although there is, and I know that you're going to go into this in a moment, but there is cultural differences in how these are kept and upkept and change over time. There is something to be said about how these motifs and these archetypes show again and again in our fiction.
Exactly. Stories essentially are projections of our inner psyche, and so much time goes by, so many people tell their own stories and they project similar patterns, and so we start to see these things come to light the more we have and the more we look back on it. So when Carl Jung was talking about this, he identified many different types of archetypes, but he basically believed that archetypes evolved and they don't always like stay as they are. They grow and they change just like people do. But again, there's certain patterns that they kind of follow. So he identified 4 archetypes that are the anima or the animus, the self, the shadow, and the persona, which most people are familiar with. They're familiar with Jungian psychology. And within himself, he identified the wise old man, the child, the mother, and the maiden. And if you know anything about Jung, those 4 pieces of him were very important. Like he identified those within him, and it means a lot for who he was and how he lived his life. And I won't go into it, but it's really interesting. So
you can read all about him and his story. Yeah.
It's very interesting to me that he didn't talk a lot about archetypes of other people. He talked about them within himself, and like those are the ones that he chose. It really tells us about him as a person. So yeah. But then of course, as time goes on, we have the neo-Jungian viewpoint of archetypes, and these neo-Jungian psychologists and philosophers, they're looking at it from a bigger perspective. They're like, okay, if Jung identified these four within himself, then like what else is there? Because there has to be so much more. And one of these people, his name was Robert L. Moore. Oh, it was actually two. It was Douglas Gillette and Robert L. Moore. They produced this book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And this is like a very, very popular book. It came out in 1990. It's at kind of the peak of the mythopoetic men's movement, which has nothing to do with the modern day men's movement. It's a different movement.
Yeah, different movement with
different movement.
Robert Bly.
Yes,
which is he's really important from a understanding psychology perspective during that period of time too.
Yeah, they were basically in the face of what was happening with feminism. They said, okay, what does it mean to be masculine? And like, how do we keep our masculinity and remain equal? And like, what does it mean to kind of go back to these ideas and what have we lost? So it was just really interesting time for a lot of male poets and philosophers and psychologists. And this book in particular dived into these four important archetypes. And what they presented is that you have, and then this is in the book, that the graphics that I have up on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, are kind of modeled after the book. And all I did was just put the character that I think represents them onto this graphic. And the top of the triangle is the archetype in its fullness. So that's the king, the lover, the magician, the warrior.
This is like the adult form. This is important.
This is really important. This is the adult form. This is the king in his fullness, the lover in his fullness. This is someone who has integrated everything. They've done all the work to like take care of themselves. And what that is that the bottom triangle is when they are immature, and the bottom is also like a bipolar dysfunctional form. It is a part of the shadow and it's not integrated. So the only way to move up and to become a full mature individual is to integrate those two parts into yourself and to like go on this journey. And then you kind of go into that upper mature area, and then you still have the choice to be on either side of the polarity. You still have the choice to be for the king, you can choose to be the tyrant or the weakling, but you're a mature tyrant or a mature weakling, right? So the integration is always happening. Integration is always, you're always going to have to like sort out what's going on in your shadow, and you're always going to have to like figure out those parts of you that are still not doing very good.
And your shadow is entirely based on your experiences in the past that you've never dealt with. Robert Bly used to, in a little book on the human shadow, talked about it being like a literal garbage bag or your baggage that you draw behind you like a shadow, and it's smelly and gross. And the more you deny its existence, the bigger it gets.
Exactly.
And that's the idea. Like it becomes smelly and gross. And so it ends up taking over your life, and you see your enemies everywhere, or you see these like faults in yourself everywhere, because the more you ignore these shadow aspects of yourself, the more they consume you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the problem. Like when you get stuck on one side of this polarity, it's hard. Like it's hard to integrate. It's hard to get back into the middle path. And that's important. That also comes from the hero's journey, right? We talked about the hero's journey in a previous episode, and this directly relates to that. Finding the middle path is about finding who you are and integrating both of those parts into yourself. That's, for example, the warrior. When the warrior is immature, as an immature child, they have to integrate the bully inside of him and also the coward inside of them. So they have to understand that they are just not one thing. They are both of these things. Integrate that. Therefore, they can walk the path of the hero and become the true fulfilled like warrior. So
I hope people can see where we're going with this as we get into this in the later episode, especially as it regards to Tom's journey, but also we get a little bit of the magician, we get a little bit of the warrior, we get a little bit of the lover. This is a really good episode for all of our flower four or four flowers.
Our four flowers.
But we also get the queen.
Yes, we also get the queen. Yeah. So that's okay. Let me talk about the divine child and then I want to talk about the queen. But
okay.
So just real quick, the divine child, which is Tom, he is the king. So important to understand.
Funny that I've been calling him a baby king.
I know. Time. It's hilarious. So the king is someone from a myth perspective, from just the way that how we kind of devised this idea of what a king is. All of humanity sees the king as someone who connects the people to God, right? He's the finger of God. He takes the messages from God and he interprets them into law. And this is why it's really important for Tom to be the king, because the divine, and they show this in the episode, they show him as a child.
Yep.
And he has all this responsibility thrust on him. So he is the chosen one. He is the divine child. And he has to go on this journey to integrate these parts of himself. He has to meet the goddess who teaches him to be, a more righteous king, which we've
also talked about.
Yes. And that's going to put him into his fulfillment. That's going to, that is the path of the divine child, is basically like the hero's journey. I mean, all the paths are essentially that. But yes, that is what's going to happen to the divine child in order to become a righteous ruler. So yeah, we'll talk about that as we go through the episode. The queen is very similar to the king in their fulfilled form. But typically the queen will start as the damsel, the shrew, which are things, these are polarities. These are two opposites. But what they really are, and the journey they will take, is the maiden. And the maiden is someone who is innocent and who is worthy of the king's love, but she doesn't know it. And she sometimes may have to be saved, or sometimes she'll act as the shrew and push him away, but the maiden will eventually become the queen. So
yeah.
And this is like important because like typically archetypes do just belong to kind of these masculine ideas, but in the kind of neo-Jungian viewpoint, there are tons of women writing about archetypes these days. Like it's a never-ending treasure trove of, there's like the orphan, and there's
way more, like the fool. I do think I do want to point out one thing about the queen, which is that fundamentally the queen is responsible for making everybody care about the well-being of all.
Yes, the queen is and they're the other side of the kingdom. Like they're like caring about the people and caring about like life, and that people can exist without fear. Right.
That's really important, and oftentimes is the impetus to balance out the king, to say like you need to go fight your wars, but what about the people? Stuff like that. We see that a lot in stories.
Exactly.
And we see that in Goya.
I mean, this episode literally screamed that, especially at the end. I was like, oh my God, like she's acting as the queen almost at the end of this episode. And it's kind of mind-boggling that I wanted to talk about this. I made these yesterday before I saw the episode. Like I didn't know we were going to go there. So that's crazy. Also, just to quickly mention, Rin is the lover, and the Oedipal child, if anyone's familiar with, the Oedipus complex and just the myth of Oedipus, like this is not a negative thing. This is just about Ren being
a soft boy.
He needs a woman to take care of him, which we called out which we called out in a previous episode, talking about how he, like, Mira kind of fulfilled that for him. And when she left, he needed another woman to fulfill that. So that's where that comes from. And of course, his journey is about trying to kind of have this more self-love, I would say, not being addicted and not being lustful and, you know, not completely pushing people away, but becoming a lover in general. And then Gavin, you can already see, you can see exactly what he is. I mean, he kind of balances back and forth between a jester and a manipulator. So he's kind of like, I don't know if anyone knows the book Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. There's a character named Wit, and I would say like it's 100% Gavin, because he's kind of this jester type character, and he also manipulates things. So
and he also is, like, in this story, the chosen child of a dynasty type nobility family, right? Like, he is that. Exactly. He's the precious child who has grown up. Right?
But he's also he's emotionally stunted, and he's emotionally stupid, essentially.
Yeah, and he is the dummy throughout most of this story.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting seeing that. And then we have, of course, the warrior, MJ, my boy, my baby boy. Yeah, and I kind of already went through this, but he kind of goes back and forth between being a bully and being a coward. And you can see in which ways that he is a coward, but all of this for him, it's kind of less extreme, because in general, MJ is acting as our hero. He is keeping the F4 together. He's keeping everyone together. He's on his path. You know, he's trying to be like good. He's trying to remain loyal to his friends. And I would say kind of a good mythological equivalent would be Lancelot. Yeah. I think MJ is like very much like Lancelot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And his story is circled around family, and F4 are his family. And also I think he wants to make them all better and help them.
Yeah, he does. Actually, thinking of, I guess, I don't know, maybe Ren's more like Lancelot, and like the warrior, it's like Gawain, and Jay's more like Gawain, or anyways, my my Knights of the Round Table lore is a little fuzzy right now. It's been a while. Anyways, so yeah, if you can think of any other archetypes that you think these 5 fall into. Also, in the future, we're going to talk about some of the other characters and kind of what archetypes they resemble. Mother, yes.
The lover, the wise woman. I see them all.
Yes, there's a lot of good feminine archetypes that are happening in this show. They haven't come completely out yet, but we'll talk about them as the show progresses. All right, so our lore this week is the main part of the show, the main part of the episode, the challenge, or we were talking fight.
About basketball this whole time, and we're like, we want the basketball. There's a reason there's no basketball, Ty.
It's upsetting me, but
it makes sense because she would kick his butt.
Yeah, I kind of came to that conclusion yesterday while I was tweeting about it. I was like, you know, they might not do it because she would probably beat him. So for those who don't know, the manga had this basketball scene that was basically a challenge where the male lead said, okay, I challenge you to a game of basketball 3-on-3. If my team wins against, the female lead and the second best friend, and her best friend, if I win and you lose, then you're expelled from the school. But if he wins, then he loses both his best friend and her. And he figures that out halfway into or like almost seconds left till the match is over. And he's like, he knows he's going to win, but he also knows if he wins, he loses.
There's a Nash equilibrium in this. I was freaking out all week, but this what they did actually does better emotionality for like making it high drama and things like that. So
because what happens is like, so we get this in the original, we get it in the 2001 version, and then the 2018 version, does the exact same thing
play
plot-wise, but they play bridge. Yeah. It's just a difference in the game. He gives up. But then the 2005 version, Hana Yori Dango, Japanese version, they do this big epic F4 fight where the male lead lies to him at some point, or it lies to him before the fight, and that's what causes the fight, right? And tells him like, oh yeah, like she enjoyed the date today and she wanted to do more, and you know how she is, I'm just gonna keep leading her on.
Yeah.
And then what's funny is that the 2009 version, the South Korean version, takes from the 2005 version, but does the challenges. They do like the horse racing,
hockey, and then there was one other one.
I think it was a car race as well.
They raced in cars too.
It was super excessive. They do all these challenges, and then
it takes like 2 episodes.
It does. It takes like almost like 2.5 episodes. Yeah. And then at the very end of it, basically the same thing happens in the 2005 version where he like kind of lies to him and gets him to say that he actually cares about the female lead.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should have said that sooner. The 2009 version has so many issues. So many issues. But that was just weird. But to me, it's very similar to the 2005 version, which explains why they did that with this version. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, these two did that. We're going to do the fight because it's good for time. And it gets us like, it
also gets to admitting your feelings, which was the entire point of the basketball game in the first place, which is to admit that he cares more about the female lead being in his life than the chance of like winning.
Yes, exactly.
That's the important thing. It doesn't matter that he's right or that he feels like he can win or that he's gonna win. It all matters about the fact that now the stakes or the payoff or the lack of payoff of having the female lead out of his life or ruining everything is worse than having her in his life. Nash equilibrium. Sorry.
I love that.
Time for my game theory stuff to come out. No.
Right? You were so prepared to do this game theory thing, and now
I did a slide, but no, it's okay.
That's hilarious. So yeah, now we're on our this Tom. Last week he ended up in the angry smitten area because he was still like, we didn't know exactly what was going on in his head. And there were some people that said, oh, Tom is gonna not be so mad. And I was in the comments like, he could do anything. Like we don't know. Like when Tom is mad.
We've heard MJ and Gowan like comment like, we can't stop him when he's like this. Yeah. Like when we heard that in previous episodes, I was like, oh, it's going to be bad.
He's going to be real bad. Exactly. And it's bad in the manga. It's bad in previous versions. Yeah. So we knew this was coming, but I did think it was funny where people were like, oh no, he's not going to be as bad. Like, no, he's worse. He's worse. So he does, I'm going to play my little animation of where he ends up.
Oh my God.
All right. So he bounces all over the angry child area. Mm-hmm. And then he ends up in the smitten area. Not so sweet, but a little sweet.
Not
angry at all.
It's all gone from him. It's so good.
It's so good. He's mostly smitten. And again, this quadrant chart's not perfect because this is based off of what the director said. This is based off of the 4 different Toms that the director provided to us. I would say that smitten is more like him maturing. Love. Yeah. It's him maturing. Yeah. It's love. It's mature love. He's like learning to be better. He's learning to do better for himself or for her. So yeah, that's kind of where he's at the end of that at the end of this episode. And let's get into how he gets.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. We get the shot of, we see Tom, and we start at exactly where we ended at last episode. We see Tom has actually seen them having their hug on the roof. Okay, let's talk about his outfit because I can finally talk about his outfit.
I love your ideas about his outfit. Please.
Okay, so he's literally wearing tiger stripes that are in brown. So he's still wearing this animal skin, right? He's still the predator. He's still the beast. But the thing about tiger stripes is that we saw him in tiger stripes actually in the first episode. So this is to show us that he's fully regressing back to the anger that he had in the first episode, that he was this tyrant. But he's now matured a fair amount. And so the tiger stripes have actually grown with age. And just like real tigers, the tiger stripes like just grow and stretch with your skin. It's like getting a tattoo in a place that grows too much. Right? And the interesting things about tiger stripes is that they're always underneath the fur. Where the tiger is striped is actually just part of the tiger. That's a really important point, that Tom will never not be a beast.
Exactly.
I think this is really, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but Tom has this monstrous part of him. But the key is, will he learn how to tame the monster and use the monster for good? Right? Use that power underneath him for good or not? But it's always going to be part of him. And we heard Patha, the director, talking about it with the badger or the honey badger. Like, it's really important for you to keep in mind that like how you use power is more important than just having power.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's a whole archetype for this that overlaps with the king, which is something I did a video on about Ben Solo and some other characters like Loki from, Marvel's. And that archetype I call the little boy with the horns on his head, because there's like this pattern of a story of a little boy who has basically he's a monster. He's seen as a monster since he was a child. And he's told to kind of hide his monstrous side, but like to maintain it and to like only use it in certain ways. And it ends up, when he does become a little bit older, he's no longer a child, a baby, he starts lashing out in certain ways because this part of him was being like controlled by typically a mentor or a parent. So I mean, we can see this with Tom, and this archetype always has a redemption arc in some way, or typically has a redemption arc. It's calling for
sometimes
redemption.
They kill them
Sometimes. But it's like Zuko, right, from Avatar The Last Airbender. It's screaming for a redemption arc, because you have so much sympathy for this person, because this person didn't just become this way just because, like, they have a reason for acting out, and you're supposed to feel sympathy for them, and you want them to succeed, and you want them to do better.
And I want to talk a little bit about how, like, angry Tom is not the same Tom that we experienced in the first episode, right? This like, I've got rules.
Yeah.
He has different rules that are actually driven by a sense of justice now, and an empathy towards the pain that is in himself. So he goes and meets this bully that is like talking,
talking crap about something.
And he's like, you think that's funny? Like, he instantly empathizes with the person on the other side of the line.
You're messing with somebody. Why are you messing with somebody? I thought that was such an interesting change, because that is not in any other version. So I agree with you.
He's showing how much he's actually grown, and he can't go back to who he was sitting on that couch with his little kitty, like I'm like a kitty, like a kitten. Kitten stripes. These are man stripes. Like, he is an adult. He's growing into an adult tiger, and he has a sense of justice, but he is untethered and has no pole to direct him to, no North Star, right? He has no North Star to guide him anymore. Exactly. And I did want to shout out that, like, I'm unsure of who's going to lead the kidnapping plot, and I have 3 different candidates now, and one of them is the kid he beat up.
Yeah, sure. I instantly thought that. So the guy from the first episode and this guy, I think they're going to team up. I think it's going to be like a combination.
There's another option at the end of this episode. So
seriously,
I think so. Yeah,
have to think about it.
I'll see if I can remember if I wrote it down. But I was like, oh, there's actually 3 potential. Like, yeah. So we'll see. I think it would be cool if it was like more than one person.
Yeah, same. It would be.
Like, it was like, almost like the community coming together to kill the monster.
Well, he did shut down their place to do all of this, so like they might rebel simply because they're not allowed to do what they want to do anymore. So
he's no longer giving them permission to be monsters themselves, right?
Oh my God.
That might be like a really cool take on this concept. Yeah.
I feel it. I feel it in my bones. So yeah. Anyways, back to what's happening. So yeah, MJ and Gavin show up when he's beating up this kid, and they tell everybody not to record, and they try to control him, but automatically it goes wrong. He's like, no, like don't mess with me right now.
Yeah.
They back off, and they said,
eyes.
Like, no one,
look at his eyes.
Yeah. They're like, no one can stop him when he gets this way. But of course, when they say that, who shows up? It's Goya. Well, Ren and Goya. Yeah. It's Goya who's saying, stop it. So he does. But then he basically does his whole thing where, he announces that Ren is out of the F4. And in other versions, we didn't have this weird math problem, like where he's like, F4 is going to be F3. Like, we didn't really get that in other versions. In other versions, it was like she had the other friend, and they would be like, oh, he's gonna
now you're gonna be an F4 and we'll replace you, Ren.
Yeah. So that was funny, but missed opportunity there. But hey, it's fine.
I do like how he gives them like MJ and Gavin like an ultimatum, because like, I don't hang out with these terrible people or this terrible person. He says something else, but I don't hang out with them. And like MJ and Gavin are like, we don't get a choice. And he's like, no, I'm the king, basically. Yes. It's my way or you're all out. Because that's really important. Like, he, as much as they want to deny it, he is in charge.
Exactly. And that's something, again, people were trying to tell me, like, yeah, but MJ and Gavin, they stand up to him more in this version than previous versions.
Yes.
All they're doing is they're just raising the stakes higher. They're just making it more dramatic, more controversial, because they're really leading into this idea that Tom is this tyrant monstrosity. Like, he is a monster. He's in this scene, he regresses back to the high chair tyrant. He's a baby king that's like saying what he wants from his high chair.
Yeah.
He was beginning to integrate. He was beginning to make progress, but he regressed because that's what this story is all about.
And he's almost on like this rampage.
Yeah.
I do think that the phone is super interesting. So can we talk about the phone just
momentarily? I loved.
Okay. So this is the phone is Tom, and like all of the pain he has had to do with the lie and it's not like, and I don't know that she's lied or just like edited the truth.
Like omitted.
She lie by omission,
right?
But he shows her like I love you. This is my I love you Valentine, and you won't even accept it. And like then like, it was nothing to you. And my good friend Susan, Nate's sister Ashla, who we finally got to watch the show this week, and it's like making me so happy, but she brought up this really interesting thing that like many cultures have problems with reciprocity, and so like Goya can't accept from him because it puts them on uneven balance that she can never repay, right? Like that's where this goes, is that like relationships where you can never repay enough, you can only be together because then there's no owing between you. Right. That's really important. eventually Tom will go into stopping offering her gifts and offering her love of like service love. Right. Yeah. So eventually that's where he goes. He stops like trying to buy stuff for her and just gives her service.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's really important because Tom's love language again, and the only way that he's ever known how to tell somebody he appreciates them is by buying them things.
Yeah.
And so like this phone scene is Goya in one moment understanding that she not only needs to be truthful with those that are around her, but truthful to herself.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that she's not afraid to face this. Like she doesn't shirk away from it. She
realizes,
he knows I lied to him. Yeah. And she knew this was coming. Like she knew this was going to come out. And this is just, I love our female lead in this version so much. So
two is just killing it.
She's awesome. So
she shoves him into the lab. Yeah. Oh my God. I love her so much. She's like, again, like this is so important for these two from an archetypical perspective, is that she knows that he is her monster. Yeah. This is my monster. I need to control my monster.
That kind of blew my mind. I'm not going to lie. So we don't get this scene typically in other versions. Yeah. So it's like when she shoved him in there and it was just them two able to talk about it. I mean, one, I knew that things were not going to go down like good. Like it wasn't going to be good. I just knew it.
This is her with the honey badger in her room.
Yeah. And like, but also it's so brave. It's so brave of her, right? To put herself in that situation where she is alone with him, even though he is acting in this way. She is not afraid of him enough. And then when he acts out, this is why this is really important. When he acts out the way that he does, he knows that she's not afraid of him. So he has to make her afraid of him.
Yeah.
That is his goal. And he succeeds in that goal. And then he immediately becomes ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the point to get there, because this is really important. The moment to get to that, a lot happens. She is basically saying over and over again to him, like, you're acting out. You need to stop it. This is unfair.
Don't blame Ren.
Don't blame Ren. That's something that's kind of triggering for him, escalating. Yeah. But at one point, like she doesn't listen. She doesn't stop for him to respond.
Yeah.
She just keeps going. And this is building and building and building inside of him. And she says, stop letting your emotions take over. And that's when he like snaps because he knows that he's out of control.
Yeah.
And the person he's actually mad at, which I was going to ask you this question. All right. Like MC, like who is he mad at?
He's mad at himself.
He's not mad at her.
Always.
Like, always. Yeah. Always. He's never going to be mad at her. She can do no wrong. He's mad at himself. Yeah. So that's what makes him.
He knew where he stood. He knew where Ren was at. He knew where he stood. But he's mad at himself for caring so much more than what he sees her caring. He's mad. Like he feels this is entirely grief at the loss of everything he saw potential in. And grief like this turns into absolute rage.
Yes, absolutely.
Like this is just a really complex scene, and I can see why people react the way they do, react very viscerally to the violence that he is outwardly displaying. I think that we need to talk about the violence. We knew it was going to happen, you and I.
Yeah. And honestly, like I give content warnings for people watching any version of this story, because this always happens. The only time it doesn't happen is in Hana Yori Dango 2005. Yep. Like it happens in every other version or some version of this.
It's either the pre-scene where when like he sees her with Ren start.
Yes.
And reacts in the beginning, and then like reacts and like he basically tries to kiss her, like in the Meteor Gardens, he tries to kiss her and holds her against the wall, and it punches the wall and makes his hand bleed. It's very violent, and a lot of people react very viscerally to that. Or you get this scene where, and it's usually not tell him you hate him, say you hate him. It's usually tell me you love me. Love me. This is a very good change. In my opinion.
It is. It's a very good change. Yeah.
Like, it's like just set the board like to blank again. So I have a chance. Like, you know, like you can't, it's not even like love me. It's just like back off of him. So I feel like I have any place in this story. This is grief. Like that's why this scene is really, really complex. I'm sorry.
It's really complex. And also a lot of people pointed this out today too in the discussions, was that this directly reflects the scene with Hana from previous, right? But Hana says, you know, tell me, she basically says something along the lines of tell me you love me, right? So or you know, and he doesn't say that because he had that experience with Hana. So he's learned something.
Yes.
He's learned that he can't make Goya say that she loves him, but he wants her to say that she doesn't love Ren. Like, just tell me you don't want to be with him. Like I don't,
resetting the board.
Yeah.
In his mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And that's why it ties in later on with what Ren does during the fight. So it's really key.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah, a new OST dropped, and we get it right at the end of this scene. It is by Violet Water. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's One Last Cry, and you can check that out on the GMMT Records YouTube.
Yes, it's so good. It made me cry. One Last Cry.
Okay, I want to just like go back just momentarily, because people are very confused about this, and like you don't need to be. You can just go and read the oh wow, you had more. Okay,
I did have more. That's why I was like where
you have more? Okay,
there's more.
Sorry, there's a lot going on in the scene, but if you're confused, go and read the lyrics of Who Am I, which is the theme song for this show.
Yes.
Everything is out on the surface, and they literally say what is happening for the characters at every given moment, and to remind you, this is Beauty and the Beast. This is a transformation. He's going to regress. He's going to be terrible. This is not the first time he's going to regress. I'm sorry. He's going to go through some bad stuff, especially because of his mom, but we're going to stick with it because it's epic and fairy tale and wonderful. And the transformation is hard, but worth it.
Exactly. It's so worth it. So a couple more things I wanted to highlight on the scene was, first of all, Tu's acting was incredible. And like I said before,
they both cry again.
Yeah, they both cry again. They also again, it's important that she is afraid of him. That's important for him. It's important that he sees that she is scared of him, and he understands, and that comes out later. Again, this doesn't happen before. He destroyed her shoe. There was the whole thing with the buzzer and the hair cutting thing, but he never threatened her with violence. Yeah. So it's important that he sees that that's how violence, a threat of violence, would affect her. This is a boy. He's never punched a girl before. He's never hit a girl before. You know, they said in the previous episodes, Tom, you never gave a girl a red card, you know?
Yeah.
So this is,
I do want to say violence is the language of the patriarchy.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah,
this is really important. I've been reading a lot of Bell Hooks, which I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't read Bell Hooks. She's brilliant, especially to do with how the patriarchy conditions our young men to reinforce it only through violence. He needs to have his place in society and be respected, and that his pain is the only pain that matters, right? Big stuff. And this is anti-patriarchal storytelling.
Yeah, this is all he has to unlearn all of that. it's really hard to unlearn patriarchal like systems like this. It's very difficult. So that's his journey here, and that's why this is so important. And another thing, basically the audio here is the monster that's breathing back into Tom. It's coming back into him. It's possessing him.
The audio design.
Yes, the audio design is literally telling us this. And if you are familiar with the closest thing I could come up with is Lost, the show Lost. If you're familiar with that show at all, the black smoke monster has this very distinct audio design where it sounds like moaning and it sounds like machinery, and there's this very interesting like ch noise, like and it sounds kind of like this, which I found interesting because the black smoke monster in Lost is supposed to be kind of this pure evil. And I'm going to play the scene, and again, like if you have issues with the scene, like please skip ahead a little bit, and you will be able to avoid it. But I'm going to play the audio from this scene. แต่เธอบอกฉันมาว่าเธอเกลียดมันเธอบอกฉันดิว่าเธอเกลียดมัน
There's horror strings too.
Yeah.
พูดออกมาสิว่าเธอเกลียดมันน่ะพูดสิพูดดิวะโถ่
There it is, the chit noise. Yeah, so the chit is very like, it's disturbing. It's kind of like a snake in the grass.
Yeah, there's two other things I noticed. So there's horror strings, which is the sound. That's a common horror sound design scape thing. So it's supposed to be horrific. This is horror. But there's also like an echoing emptiness that is being produced in the sound design as well, to make it feel like scary and alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that the understanding of the scene, and like you said, it's very complex, but everything that it's telling us is that he is a cursed sprite. He's like a cursed prince. You know, he's someone who has been given this type of curse from his mom and from the kind of responsibility that he's inheriting. And this is creeping back in because he doesn't know how to act and he doesn't know what to do. And so that takes over him. It possesses him. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Anyways, so let's go. Oh, and I also, obviously the heartbreaking line is that you'll never choose me anyway. And then it leaves Goya with this kind of painstaking choice. She doesn't know what to do, and she doesn't really know her feelings yet. And I just really like that reaction from her. So then we get to the scene with the mom, or the mom is kind of there, but she's not actually physically there.
We get tulips just to remind us that the mom is caring about what is going on.
Yeah.
It's just a weird like B-roll, or when they do second unit shots, like we'll just throw this book of tulips to remind you, mom.
Yes. And that was strange to me because this appears to be Tia's office. So I don't know. Yeah. Other than just the fact that the mom is kind of always kind of omnipresent in a way. So Tia is working out the
problems at the school.
Yeah, Tia's working out problems at the school with the people who run the school. And just as she's watching this video, it goes away and we find out that the mom and her goons have dealt with it already. And this is a power play. This is definitely a power play between Tia and her mom. So,
and it's also foreshadowing her mom's go-to moves, because she's like, or he says, if they don't accept, then we will ruin their businesses.
Yes.
Their parents' businesses. That's how powerful she is. There is nothing that she can't destroy. Like this is an elite international, like all the rich of the rich go to this school.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, if you have a problem with this, I'll ruin you.
Yes, exactly.
And it is the mom's tactics. This is all foreshadowing mom's go-to moves.
All right.
Aww,
so then
then
we get the scene with the pink towel that he's been hiding, and he's kind of locked himself away. I love this scene so much because like he's acting like a child. He's acting like a child, locking himself in his room. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Blankie. I love it. So,
and also I just want to point out he never sits on furniture in his own room. It's very no. This is important to me. It's just very beast-like.
Oh, it is. I didn't think about that. Oh my goodness.
Like in all the scenes that he's moping, he never sits on furniture.
Yeah. That's so true.
He's mad at himself.
Yes.
Remember.
Yes, he's mad at how he acted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's like grieving. This is really important that this so grief for some people manifests as violence. It sucks.
Yeah.
Straight up. People sometimes don't cry and react normally. So he is grieving the loss of Goya, and then mom breaks in literally admonishes him, says, what are you doing embarrassing me?
Yeah, she obviously she shows her hand a little bit here, which is interesting. She shows that she's been following Goya. She shows that she knows things about this girl, and Tom is like, what the heck, you know, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What do you have planned? What are you plotting? And at one point he says,
aren't you even worried about me?
Yeah. Are you even worried about me? And I love this little realization because he's starting to put together, like, you know, Goya cares about him more than his mom does.
Yep.
And
she's like, it's always about me, sweetie.
Yeah. This is about the company name. This is about the family name. Yeah. So that's
this is really important because this gives us the key to like kind of her downfall in a way,
true,
right? Because like if she cares so much about the company name,
yes, right? Absolutely.
Her Achilles heel.
Yeah. Well, we saw in the previous episode, like her flower metaphors are all wrong. So she knows enough to be dangerous, but she doesn't know everything. And that's going to be, like you said, her downfall. So,
and she directly threatens.
She threatens him with what she did to the sister,
and demands he go back to his old self. Right.
Yes.
He be the high chair tyrant I taught you to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Be the baby tyrant. I can handle that.
Yeah.
That's
learned to. Yeah. She knows how to control that because that's her son and that's how she raised him. But as soon as he starts acting out because of someone else, she can't control that. So yeah,
this ties so much into some stuff we're going to talk about in future episodes.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. I cannot wait because it's literally direct parallels to this thing. Yeah. And it makes me so happy. So look for that in future episodes.
Oh, so exciting. All right. So then we go to the flower shop real quick, and it's basically they're both moping. Kaning and Goya are both moping in the flower shop about the current state of things with their love interests. And the flower shop owner is like, guys, like things will work out, like stop moping, you know, we're gonna close the shop early. And that's when
I love him.
Me too. It's such a good character, and it brings us so much delight every single episode, even just for a small little snippet, even if it's not very like in depth.
Scene, and he loves them.
He loves them.
Side note, Goya's wearing her fries over guys shirt again, which I love. Yes. And then a green and black over shirt with white as the fries over guys shirt, and blue jeans.
Yes. Color theory is like kicking it in this episode. It's so good. She's again, the white is kind of like this decision point. And it's great that it's the fries over guy shirt, because that goes back to boys over flowers. And the green is, you say it's green. Do you see
green? So it's a green
blue?
plaid shirt with black stripes through it, like black woven in, and then she's wearing blue jeans.
Right. So she's got the blue that represents Ren, and she's got the green, which is her. And again, black and white kind of are these decision points, good and bad. What do I do? So
we also get that reflected in Tom with his Western raw edged shirt, which somebody
that's what
sent
it's
me.
called. I love that it's called like raw edge, because it has the little the white parts are kind of like cut in a way.
He's frayed at the seams.
That's frayed. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. That's so good. So this is when Gavin and MJ show up to show him this is why Ren acted the way he did. But they show him like the whole thing about the engagement, and Tom doesn't care, because this isn't even about that anymore. This is about
he's sad.
He's sad that Goya has not chosen him and likes Ren over him. So he throws the iPad or whatever it is, and MJ's like, that was my dad's.
That was my dad's. That scene, oh my god, I loved it. And again, we get like MJ trying to peacekeep, this constant like peacekeeping, and Gavin is just like, I'm tired of trying to fix stuff. And so like when you're mad at somebody and somebody's like, I'm just tired of this, and the person is like, well, fine, then just go then. Like, that they're just like shutting people out because they're like upset with themselves and upset with the world and everything like that. And this really points to like how much they've given MJ as a character compared to all the other versions. They've really accentuated the one special manga sort of specialty one that they gave him, which really showed everything from his perspective, and they've just like brought it into the main story and given it to him and accentuated it, that he's the one that's trying to make sure that the the four flowers stay together. And it's the worst thing in the world for MJ that they would break up, so much that he punches the wall. Let me talk about violence for themselves for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
This is manipulation.
Oh, it is. Well, that's how they handle things, right? I mean,
because he is willing to hurt himself. Right? If you're willing to hurt yourself, it's a way of hurting others, because people who really care about you are like, please don't do that. But it is like, it's such a bad manipulative thing to do.
I mean, it's clearly is. Yeah.
But we don't consider this as bad as what Tom does in the earlier scene. But in so many ways, it's more insidious. And so this is where, like, in every one of them is a monster. Remember that. We have to remember that all of the Flower Four are monsters in different ways.
Yes, we probably should do a breakdown of that at some point, because it again, they have these archetypes and they're on these journeys to become better, but they're not good. Like, they're very bad right now. Like even Ren, like, I think at the end of this episode, like, there's an indication that he's integrating and moving forward, but all the rest of them are
like if MJ had punched the wall in front of his girlfriend, people would be so mad.
Yeah, just like with Tom throwing the chair or the stool. Yeah.
But why aren't we mad about him punching the wall in front of Gavin?
Something also, Tom threw chairs into the pool last episode. Yeah. Literally said it would just be easier if I went back to the way I was.
Yeah.
And the guys laugh at him. Like, there's, again, it's just, there's
the language of the patriarchy is violence.
Yeah.
This is really, really important that we step away from this and we learn, like, violence has to be used in very specific ways.
Yeah.
And like,
it's so funny that I saw this, like, we saw this scene in the trailer and I was like, what is making my baby punch the wall this way? Like, that looks like it hurts.
He's manipulative. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Oh no,
I'm sorry to tell you that.
I love it. I think it's hot. I think it's cool because this is a part of his journey and he's going to be better as time goes on. I love it. I like
they gave him
MJ.
something that they've never given. He's normally just kind of standing there like the character in all of the other versions. You're like, oh, what's he up to? Oh, he's standing there making sarcastic comments.
Exactly.
With his dynamic duo. Like, oh, okay.
Has like a weird thing with like.
But he cares more than anybody else about F4 being together and being a family.
Exactly.
And it's so good.
It's so good. It's perfect for who we have seen his like the symbols being kind of like the moon and like circling around them and keeping them together and
healing
and renewing and all of that. It's so good. So then we get the date. Oh my God. Awkward date is not awkward enough.
No, okay. So, okay. But what is this? Soy. Okay, I saw you eat it that one time, but I'm allergic to soy, but I bought you 2 drinks.
Yeah. Because that's like, what you're supposed to do, or like
because it's okay, so this is important. This is the only thing he knows about her.
Yeah. This is different from
only thing he knows about her. Okay, so like she drank soy that one time.
Yeah.
Whereas Tom knows everything.
Yeah.
Because he genuinely loves everything about her.
I really like this. Yeah.
Ren is boring as hell.
Yeah. That it is funny though, because like in the previous versions, like, okay, specifically to call, I won't talk about all of them, but specifically the Hana Yori Dango 2005 Japanese version, he at one point in the date, it was really awkward date, and at one point he walks in on her while she's using the toilet.
God, yeah.
She's sitting on the toilet. He opens the door and he's like, why didn't you lock it? And then he closes it and she just like completely melts down and she's like, oh my God, that was the worst
and
thing
then
that
he
could
tells
happen.
The restaurant.
Yeah. And exactly. He announces it like in front of the whole restaurant. Yeah. It's just it's so bad. It's so cringy. And like, but
Media Garden 2018, they go on the date and it's like the most boring thing in existence. And I was like, oh, so we're gonna watch them be boring together. Cool. At least this is fun, because she's like, I'll take you on this thing. Okay, can I just spend a moment and talk about trampoline dodgeball, which is an actual thing?
It looks like a lot of fun.
They're not playing basketball, even though there's basketball nets. They're playing trampoline dodgeball. They're throwing dodgeballs at each other. I play dodgeball once a week. I have played trampoline dodgeball. It's hard.
I've never played this.
I love that they're actually like at a trampoline park and they're playing trampoline dodgeball. It makes me so happy.
It was such a short moment there. It's a montage with the In the Wind song playing in the background, and it's great. It's honestly it's cute, and I'm glad they had a good time, because I don't like watching the boring awkward date. I never liked it.
It shows that they're friends, truthfully.
Yes, truthfully, yeah.
And then they go gaming, and what's really important from like a mini lore perspective about this moment is that it gives her time to like be away from time and genuinely think about him. And it's kind of like the statement of absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Like, without him, what is it like? And it truthfully helps her reflect and understand. And Ren goes and buys a new drawing book and frames her up with his pen, which kind of like represents turning a page for him into a new phase of his life.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good. It's great because like, even though he's framing her here, he's like looking at her. He's not thinking about being romantically involved with her. He's more so thinking about like what's next in his life, you know? And I like that. I like that we're not confused about Ren. It's more so like we're seeing kind of this journey he's on, and we're accepting of it and everything. So he's not being manipulative the whole time like in previous versions. He's being manipulative towards, you know, Tom, but he's not being manipulative towards her. So that's good. And then we get our
I was right from the trailer.
Yeah. The chessboard and he hits it.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so in the trailer, I was like, oh, he's done with his mother's games. And I was like, literally, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening. And it's so interesting because we don't actually have a lot of explanation for this. We don't get any kind of dialogue from him explaining this. The last thing we saw is he was confronted by his mom saying that she knew about all this. And he was like, what are you going to do? Like, what's next? And then he had the whole thing with MJ and Gavin, where he was like, I don't need any of this. Like, I'm kind of preoccupied. And now he's in his room, like, what do I do?
Trying to outplay his mom, and he can't.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, this is such a symbol in the trailer.
Yes.
Then we got it. And I was like, oh yeah, feels nice to be right sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, it's so good. It's almost like this deep cut of a scene. It's so funny, like how deep it is in terms of symbols.
I was surprised he's actually trying to play chess.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like him throwing the board. He's actually trying to figure out a way out of this for himself. And to I think he's maybe thinking like, how can I protect Goya without her like driving a further wedge, or like, what do I do next? I don't know, because I care about her.
Yeah.
I think he's there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree. Yeah. It's a lot we see. It's really, really cool. So then we get this adorableness with Kaning and Gavin, because in a couple of episodes ago, or a couple scenes back, MJ was like, okay, you go talk to Ren and I will talk to Tom. And so, Gavin is kind of here unwilling, like he doesn't reluctantly, he's at the flower shop and he's talking now to Kaning. MJ is like, let me talk to Kaning. Like, why don't you just take him to go get food and water? He's quite low maintenance. Like, feed him food and water, like he's a pet or something. Because again, at the time, like Gavin is kind of being his worst self. Like he's acting like a monster. He's acting like
he's trying to give up and he's trying to be selfish. That's key.
Exactly.
And MJ tricks him and doesn't allow him to.
I love that so much.
Because MJ, and it's pointed out later that because Ren recognizes. Yeah, they're so smart. They're like, Ren recognizes the tricks too.
Yep.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, later.
Oh, this all builds up to an actual confrontation between Gavin and MJ, and then it feeds into everybody.
Like, this makes more sense than any other version.
Yeah.
of actually giving all of the four flowers conflict with each other.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
So good.
It's
I love
so
them.
good.
I love them.
Yeah. So this still, like, plot wise, this still kind of sort of fits the Hana Yori Dango 05 version, except that Gavin did not go to Kaning, or like those characters. They did not meet up at this point. They meet up a little bit later in the episode. But this is still following for the most part. Then we also go to the date, and clearly Goya is still thinking about Tom, and she's talking about him and how like everything's always such a ruckus with him. He always gets into fights with everyone, even the birds. And she says, what kind of person is he, picking a fight with everyone? And she's like saying this all while smiling, which is so interesting considering the last moment that she had with him.
I hate his butt, but I'm smiling about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, he's so terrible and I hate him, but I can't stop talking about him. And I did have a tiny costuming note about Ren, is that he's back to his normal colors, except he's all in brown this episode because he's reflecting Goya, and like, but he's back to being kind of like a bland tone. He's not in sort of a decision making or a disruption mode. I think he knows what he needs to do, right? Yeah,
he's very set. But another thing, and this is subtle, all the Flower 4 always wear chains.
Oh yeah, Rin always has that he has the same one on all the time.
Thin chain on. Yeah. Tom always has his thick chain on. MJ wears a bolo or some other type of chain, and Gavin always has a chain that you can kind of see underneath. So they're all chained monsters. This is important because they're their proto versions of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah. So then Rin basically says, is this really better? Like, do you really like this with me instead? And he actually puts her on the spot and says, who would you choose if you had to choose between Tom and me?
Nervous and drops the phone, and they both catch it and they hold hands, which is a meet cute. But then they get okay, this is really important. Okay. When you have two characters that are backlit by the sun or a bright light in this way, they are supposed to kiss. We actually have a full rise of romantic music melodramatically coming into the background. And then we hear Tom go, stop. And then birds. Right?
Yeah, I love it. It's not even subtle at all. Like, it's literally like Tom is in her brain telling her stop, which is funny because that was mean. Like he was saying that to her in a way that was very wrong and very hurtful, and and it's in her head. She sees the bird, and then but she's thinking about the nice moment that she had with him, and she's thinking about the fact that she just said to Rin, oh, he even got in a fight with the birds. And then she thinks about that moment. It's like, well, he didn't get in a fight with the birds. There was just this moment where Tesla scared him and he jumped and the birds flew away.
And this sets her up for understanding that Tesla was the trigger of it. And this is key because Tom is the many beast monster, right? The birds are part of him. And she kind of starts to own that this is her monster.
Yes. Oh God. This little moment of realization here, it's so good. It definitely.
I cannot believe they put this in the show. I'm just like, you guys really do know what you're doing.
Yeah. It's good. It's different. And we haven't seen it before.
We're going to use pigeons? Who thinks of that?
It is. It's so good. And to kind of parallel a little bit, that this scene typically takes place a little bit later, where Rin, it's typically Rin will go in to kiss her to prove to her that how she feels. He kind of tricks her. That's in the Hana Yori Dango 2005 version. It happens after the fight. It happens after kind of at the end of the episode. But that's what this moment is. But it's more of an equal situation.
Yeah, and the point is, given all of the right circumstances, we're suddenly holding hands.
Yeah,
we're backlit by the kissing light.
Yeah,
literally being backlit like this is there's endless examples of cinematographers using this exact moment type, with the backlight of the sun. You're supposed to kiss. And the romantic swell of the music, and you don't. That means you don't actually care for that person in that way.
Exactly.
So important.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, it's so good. So then we go to was it Cafe
Kitsune? Okay, so I'm wearing my nine-tailed fox shirt just because. So a kitsune is a nine-tailed fox in Japan. Sometimes they're called gumios. The legends around them is that they're sort of vampire-like creatures that seduce young men, especially women who are seduce young men and then steal their life force. But sometimes they can be young, attractive men. And this is not the first time that we've had a kitsune associated with Gavin. He's worn his Maison de Kitsune, a House of Nine-Tailed Fox shirt to the airport when they picked up Mira. So he is a kitsune, which is a seduction creature. And it's literally above his head as she leaves. It's Cafe de Kitsune. It's oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's so funny because I recognize his name, but I recognized it from one of the people we're friends with Twitter on Twitter with. It's like, that seems familiar. What is that? I forget what that is. That's what it is. So yeah, that's the cafe is called that Gawin and
Seduction Cafe.
Seduction Cafe. And she calls him out on being a player. She says, my boyfriend's not a player like you. And he says,
didn't this remind you of 10 Things I Hate About, or he's not that he's just not that into you with Justin Long? Didn't that remind you of that movie?
It did not remind me, but it does now.
Okay. But it's the dating advice. Like, if he doesn't call you back, he's just not that into you.
He's just not that into you. Oh my God. That's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Yeah. And he's like, you've always been naive. Pats her on the head. Again, we have to remember, like, he's 2 years older than her. And in like high school, that feels like a lifetime. So then we have who Haning believes is still kind of her boyfriend, show up, and she sees him with a girl. She's going to say hi to him because she doesn't think he's a bad guy. And obviously he pretends to not see her. I also want to talk about his outfit.
Okay, I do. So I have notes on it too. So there you go.
Of course. Previously, his outfit was, or Tesla, his outfit was a shirt of faux
grills.
What do we say? Faux grills? Yeah, grills, like faux predator
faux
kind of
teeth,
thing. Yeah, fake teeth. And this time it's like a bunch of like, it looks to be like faux gems, right? And this is all about buying power, which we'll get to. There's also like a gun.
There's a gun, which, I mean, the actor's name is, I don't know how to pronounce it, Gunsmile or Gunsmeal or
that's right. Yeah.
So
funny.
And then the writing says, one drink and we'll go home.
Yes.
Ew.
It's exactly what my reaction was. I read that. I'm like, that's nasty. So
yeah, I do like that, Gawin is like warning her, like, I'm a player. I have an anecdote, which is my eldest child has somebody that's interested in them at school and told them this. And then they told them back, I'm not a good person to be with. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, you just set them to fall even harder for you, kid.
Yeah, that's the trope.
I'm like, what did you do? They're going to become obsessed with changing you. And
that's hilarious.
And they said, are you making me into one of your K-dramas?
That's amazing. I love it.
I couldn't help but think of Gawin in this situation where he's just like, I'm a player too, It's like, oh.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah. So then Haning sees that he's obviously, this guy that she was dating has moved on way too quickly, clearly has been cheating on her. And so she goes and she cries. And this is, again, indicative of the Hana Yori Dango 2005 version. But this is actually the moment she's crying on a street corner typically. And that's when
he comes by and
he comes by.
This is so much more hot because he's like, he sees her in trouble and like upset, and then follows her and gives her like compassion.
Oh, it's so good.
And regardless of his own damage, like, because he actually does care about her, but he's like hiding that from himself. This is really, really important for their character arcs. And then like the handkerchiefs, again, we've talked about the handkerchiefs represent the guys.
Yeah,
like
giving a part of
it's like a favor. This is like, I'm giving you me.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so good. And something I wanted to point out of this scene, the consoling scene, two things. Well, one of them is Haning's character is yellow, like her color is yellow, and how she affects people and rubbing off on people, like that's represented typically in yellow. And with Gawin's character, he's wearing like the pink, he's wearing gray, and the teddy bear on him is also like wearing yellow. Yeah. And there's yellow on the escalators. Also, the escalators behind them, the one directly behind Hanning is going down, and the one directly behind Kavin is going up.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, this could be just because in Thailand it's opposite sides of the road.
But
stuff,
they had her sit on one side and they had him sit on the other. They chose which sides.
No, you're right. You're right.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm not.
No, you're right. You're right. Sorry. No, you're right.
I'm just saying. It could be accidental, but it symbolizes that she is someone who is lowly. And he is someone who's like really high above. And this is really important.
And also emotionally, she's sad and he's going up. And,
but this is important for the relationship because, I mean, if you know what happens with them, this is the crux. Like this is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a problem they cannot exactly overcome. So for me, this is almost a foreshadowing. More than anything else.
You don't think that they're going to get together?
I mean, I would want them to. But
they do in 2018.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I hope the best outcome for them. But yes, if anybody understands Asian dramas, the second male lead and the second female lead typically do not make it work. It's very rare that they do. But yeah, this one is a little up in the air because
I don't know what they're going to do. They might give MJ an actual romantic lead. So,
fingers crossed.
Based on colors alone.
Yes, colors
and a couple of comments about how she's cute and hot.
Exactly. I was going to say a couple lines there too, MC. Don't forget those.
Don't forget the lines, Marie Claire. Yeah.
So yeah. So then they have this cute moment where Kavin starts taking pictures of her while she's crying, and she's like, "What are you doing? Stop that." And they kind of they play wrestle, and they have this really adorable moment where she smiles really close to him and he's like, "That's more like it." And then he says, "Some girls are pretty when they cry, but tears are not for someone like you," which is both an insult and a compliment.
It's negging.
Well, and he's a master manipulator. Like, this is him being bad, but also him kind of extending friendship and extending consoling in his own way. So, and then he goes a step further than that, and he's like, "All right, let's go back." And she's like, "Oh yeah, Ren and Goya might be here." And he goes, no, not that, your thing. It's not fun if it just ends this way.
Yeah, because he's like, no. The F4 takes care of business.
Exactly. So then he surmises this plan, which is way better than the Hana Yori Dango 2005 version.
Absolutely.
By the way, so much better. I like that what they do in that version, but this tops it easily.
This reminds me a lot of 2018 Meteor Garden.
Yes, you brought that up today, and I 100% agree, because it's about buying power. It's about what
the Kavin flex.
Yeah, it's like, I have this power, but it's like something you will never even be able to comprehend. And I like that a lot, because it's
I'm gonna loan my power to this lady. You suffer.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just before this, as we before the scene where he gets his kind of revenge for her, we notice that Ren knows what's happening, because Ren is the most observant of everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And he also knows that MJ was trying to fix everything. He makes that one comment. I'm like, they're giving MJ so much. They're giving him so much. I love that they're actually giving him character and depth.
Yes. And consistent. It's consistent character. It's not just like
consistent. Yeah.
They're not using him just to like fulfill certain things that are needed for the plot. Like, he actually is meeting certain like characteristic requirements. Like, it's consistent. It's so interesting. Gawain's the same, but Gawain was easier because he has more of a consistent character in previous versions. MJ does not.
Yeah. So I love that also, as he starts to insult Goya, he starts to insult Tom. Like, MJ starts to like, okay, I gotta take off the glasses, gotta become Superman. Right?
Yeah. So then basically what happens is he says, he's gonna buy this bag, and the Tesla gets jealous. And so, basically buying power ensues where he, Gavin buys the bag and the Tesla stomps off, and he's mad because he's jealous because he thinks like he hit on his woman, but he didn't. He brings the bag instead to
kind of insulting the woman and
insulting both
Tesla.
of them.
Yeah.
And then he gives Kaning the opportunity to say what she wants to say. He's like, do you know him? And she goes, no, I don't recognize him.
Yep.
And then they start to walk away. But then Tesla says, oh yeah, like you're the F4. I know one of you. Like he was into someone I would nail and bail. Yeah. Says the same words he did on the double date. And of course, everyone hears this. So Rin and Goya are there and they hear it. She hears it, and she just as Gavin starts taking off his glasses to beat the crap out of this guy.
Yeah.
Goya instead intervenes. And she says, and she's like, what's wrong with a girl like me? And he says, oh, I'm glad you're here. A poor low-life girl like you goes hand in hand with a violent guy. Yeah. With a violent guy. That's an important line. That's a really important line, because what she does next
is kick him. Yeah. Okay. So you and I originally like got together as friends as part of the Raylo fandom. And there was always all of these headcanons around Ray protecting Kylo because of this moment that happens in The Last Jedi where she basically beats up Luke. Surprises him from behind. And then kind of like pulls out her lightsaber and threatens him because he hurt Kylo or Ben as a kid, like, or as a younger man. And this is the equivalent of one of those scenes, right? Absolutely. Like this is getting into that. This is like, nobody messes with my man.
Yes.
This is my monster, not your monster, my monster.
Yeah. And she really, like, honestly, she puts everything together, but she also is acting in a way, like you said, like this is her monster. And she says that. She says, he's my boyfriend.
Yeah, very my boyfriend lioness vibes, right? Our baby queen that's growing up, like she's like, no, I'm gonna control this situation. This goes my rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did this because of you. I understand this now. It's so funny because she uses violence in this moment. Mm-hmm. She's the one who has to be chased by police. Right. Or like by the mall cops or whatever they are. And it's like she's kind of showing that monster that she has inside of her too. Cause that's important part of her character is that she's tough and she's strong and she has a monster, not an evil monster, but she has a strong monster inside of her. She has an animal, a predator.
She has, she's like the lioness, right? But she just uses it to protect others, etc.
Exactly.
And she knows how to use her power.
Exactly. And something I also wanted to mention was that with the buying of the bag, which I didn't get a screenshot of it, but I should have. It
was a bear.
It was a bear. Yeah. So
let's talk about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. The bear is the bag, and the bear is on Gawain's shirt. And we have seen the teddy bear before.
Yep.
So for me, this is like kind of this bigger theme of treating people like people instead of like dolls or like teddy bears or like puppets. This is toys. Yeah. This is the overwhelming theme. And we talked about this in a previous episode when we talked about the teddy bear being ripped apart and how that's done in different versions.
And so like, this is an overall like big thing because it's primarily, other than Ren trying to help his friends, he's also doing this with selfish motivations. It can be two things, right?
Yeah.
This is true. Two things, right? He's setting Tom up.
Yeah, he is. God, there's so many things going on with this teddy bear thing. Because Gavin is proving to Tesla that Tesla is treating the women in his life as objects to possess, right? He actually says it in the store. Mm-hmm. But then he buys the teddy bear and he gives it to Kaning,
which he also has told, I treat people like objects.
Yes. And he has the teddy bear on his sweatshirt. Yeah. So it's almost like you can't really trust that. You can't trust him and what he's saying about that. Like,
all of our little baby monsters.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. So, and then that's going to come up a little bit later too, and we'll talk about that during the fight. So I love it that Goya gets chased by the guard or mall cop, I don't know what to call him, and she just keeps running past Ren, and Ren just watches her run away because he's just, it can't be bothered, I guess. And it's really funny too, because also Kaning and Gawin are also there, and they also watch this happen, and we just see them kind of react.
Literally goes home like that. Yeah. Everyone else is like, oh, I guess Goya's out.
Exactly. It's really funny. This doesn't happen in other versions, so I guess they were like, oh, we'll cut it there. It's fine. It was great. Again, this is to point out that Goya just used violence against someone, and that's how she uses violence, which is different than how Tom uses violence. It's important. So let me get the scene of MJ trying to talk to Tom through the wall, and it's so great. It's so beautiful. I wanted to clip the whole darn scene, but I couldn't. It was just so good. Yeah,
he's trying to hold everybody together.
Yeah, he's trying so hard, and he's just like, Tom, like, please, like, he talk to me.
Turns up the music.
Yeah, he turns the music up, and he ignores them, and he kind of just like, goes into his own world. And then we get Ren, who goes back to the billboard that was empty the last time he saw it. This was the billboard that originally had Mira on it, and he sees it, and it says, "A new era is coming."
Okay, I have a guess. This is a Paraman building.
I thought that too. I was like, because this is like literally like this is the same wording that she used
that Tom's
in that episode.
Mother used.
Yeah. A new era is coming, and like, for him it means something, but like this is clearly their development, the development of Tom's family and whatever it is they're doing.
This is like the merger stuff that she's working on, which ties into the fiance plot that we'll get to.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's both foreboding and hopeful.
Thank you, show, for
confusing us,
giving us all of the symbols.
Exactly. I love it. So
Tom has big emo vibes in his room, but he gets the phone call, and he puts on his animal skin. He puts on his leather jacket, which is in black and white. Again, this reminded, when he was hiding in his room, it reminded me a lot of Beauty and the Beast, when he's like, when Belle leaves and he's like sulking in his room, like scratching up the walls and stuff, and his servants are trying to like coax him to come out, but they can't, and then suddenly he like
emerges.
Yeah.
It's very much like that. And also Tia hears what happens at that moment too, which is important to call out. She hears where he's going and why, like what he's doing, which becomes important later. So they go and they meet at their like ruined kingdom. This is like, the symbology is so thick in this. Like, we've already talked about how the stadium is like Tom's court, and the F4 are like his knights. But we can confidently talk about those symbols now. Before we were just kind of guessing, but this is so obvious now, like especially with the stadium being flooded with water.
It's always a drowned, like sickly place.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because standing water is never healthy.
No, the rain is healthy.
The rain is healthy because it helps you cleanse and wash away and get the pain out.
Yes.
And wash it away.
But the water in the setting that they're in is like you said, it's like sickly and it's not good for them. This place is not good for them. And the fact that they fight here is so cool and so symbolic. And again, the fight only happens in Hana Yori Dango 2005 Japanese version. They're still following that version. The version of the fight happens in Boys Over Flowers, but not like this. This is evocative of like the Japanese version. So
it's a more emotionally charged way to do the competition and what it is, which is just to get the main lead to admit how he actually feels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they flip it here. So the start of it, Tom does not usually, the male lead does not usually lie here. Like, I mean, he does kind of.
I mean, Ren is trying to tell him the truth, I think that's where he starts because he isn't allowed to finish.
That's true. And then Tom is
and then it's like denial. Not
He's
just a river in Egypt.
I haven't heard that one in a long time. He's like, if it's about Goya, there's no need. I no longer have interest in her. I don't care. She's all yours now. And he's like, she was never into you. Like she was never yours. And Tom is lying to him and he knows it. So he just leans into it.
Yeah.
Cause he knows like if he pushes him to a certain extent, he knows that Tom is going to admit his own feelings. So he does it.
Yeah.
So he says, I love Red's face here when Tom grabs him after he says she just wants a rich guy as her boyfriend. And he grabs him by the collar and you get to see this like Du is incredible. Like
he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
This is his first acting project. Like, are you kidding me? Like he's incredible. So we get this range from him. That's And this too, I also clipped this part right before he says this is nothing. Like this, they need to give him like the role of a villain because he would be so good. So good as a villain. Oh my goodness.
He went full monster. Like it's like it and like it's a complex monster because it comes with multiple reasons, right? He's trying to get back at him and he's trying to hurt him, but also through this pain, through reopening these wounds, he knows that he will finally heal and fully come to his own understanding of where he's actually at, because none of them want him to go back to the Tom he was, and that they need to show him that he has changed too much now.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get this whole
fight
that starts breaking out. It's so good. The moment where Tom punches MJ is actually when I was like, oh, this is going down. Like no one punches MJ. Like MJ is off limits, guys. Like if you punch MJ, you're insulting the entire group.
Yeah, he's like the heart of the group. Yeah.
He's the heart of the group. He is your sword. He is your heart. He is your hero. Like, don't punch him. And Tom punches him. He says, mind your own business. And MJ is like, I've had to mind your business because of you. Like you put me in this situation. And he just gets really mad. And then
he gets mad at Kavin for not caring. And then Kavin Gargowan's like, how dare you say that I don't care about anything?
Yeah.
Like so good. I love them.
It's so good.
I literally wrote down, I love these idiots.
Yeah, they're so good. So, and something important to call out is that this kind of zoom out of the fight in the Hana Yori Dango version, 2005 Japanese version. There was an apple on the billboard when they zoomed out. So
which was the toy,
which was like the toy.
Well, there's version.
Yeah, so
there's
like
multiple toys, but this was like the thing that like Ren held against Tom.
Yeah.
as part of their friendship.
The apple is the teddy bear. And so they zoom out and like the apple is on the billboard behind them. And like, you see that it's really silly because the apple symbolism is so weird. But in this version, Kavin has a teddy bear on his sweatshirt. So it's important because it's like literally that. It's like they're reminding us, and they say it in the dialogue as well when they cut from the commercial to the next part, is like Rin is saying, you're just a little boy who like doesn't want anyone else to play with his toys, doesn't want to share his toys. We saw that in the trailer as well. They explicitly call it out. So it's just really kind of like doubling down on the toy symbolism. And we get that after the fight as well. But yeah, so then we get a cut during the fight to Goya typing out her apology to Tom, but she doesn't send it because Tia calls her and tells her what's going on.
Yeah.
So
but she's been thinking about it. That's what it's important for her to have typed it out, means that it's heavy on her mind, even if she doesn't get to say the words in that moment. In Hana Yori Dango, she writes him a text and he gets it later, and then it's weird and awkward and odd.
Yeah.
This is better what they choose to do. Again, they always make the best choice. I don't know how that's possible. Oh, it's because this show has been made 6 times.
They do.
And also the director and writers are brilliant. It's just, they're great. They get to benefit from hindsight. 2020.
Absolutely.
Oh God, I love them so much.
They're so great. And so then we get that iconic line, you're just a kid being possessive over his toys. And he also says like, you're all talk. Like he's pushing Tom, he's pushing all the right buttons. And then
stop insulting her.
Yeah. Finally.
Don't be mean. Like maybe he could give her to him if Ren was going to be good. Maybe he could get over this if Ren was just going to leave her alone. But you can't just say you're going to use her.
Exactly.
That's important, because that's worse. Watching the love of your life walk away with somebody who's not going to value her is worse.
Yeah, it is. And it hurts him so much. He's like, I love her. Like, I care about her. I love her. And Ren is like that's all you had to say. Like, that's all you had to say from the very beginning. I lied to you. You wouldn't have admitted it unless I did that. And Tom's just like reacting to all of this, like, you bastard, like you.
And when we were on the date, she couldn't stop talking about you.
She couldn't stop talking about you, which he smiles at, which I love. That's so cute.
Oh God, they look so good beaten up.
They do. It's great. It's hot. It's awesome. And then Ren gets up and he says, Tom, you're on the right track. Like, don't go back to the way you were. Which is so important for him.
We all needed this because his mom told them the opposite, but he needs to know he's got his bros behind him.
Yeah.
And the hand, like, we're with you, buddy. Like,
it's really, really important. So yeah, I think you had some thoughts about Goya entering.
Oh yeah. Enter Goya. Okay, so in previous times, she's either been in the stands or entered from the opposite side where the plebes come in. She enters from the F4 entrance. I don't know the layout of this stadium. I don't care. She enters from their entrance. She is the queen.
Yeah, that's what we've been shown. We only know what we've been shown. We don't need to think about this realistically. We've seen F4 enter a certain way. We've seen the plebes enter a certain way, the other people. And she comes in and there's a light shining on her as well. She's like straight from above.
And then they stop and they all like, whoa, wait a second, she's here. Yeah. And they're all like happy to see her because they know that this is what Tom needs as kind of his guiding light. Yeah. And they're all happy about it. So she approaches. He's like, oh, yeah, you're finally here. We're finally on the same page. And she starts to beat the crap out of him. And they're like, wait, no, we figured it out. And then she calls them all idiots.
And it's funny, it's MJ and Kavin are the ones who step in and try to protect Tom. Again, they're acting as his guardians, but they're protecting him, and then they're saying like, well, no, it's fine. Like Ren doesn't step forward. But
I do want to point out, power dynamics. They all lower themselves to be lower than her.
Yeah,
except for Ren. But this is important because she has never been like ever higher than them, because they're all like 180 centimeters or something. They're all almost 6 feet tall. But like literally they all squat down in fear. Like she is like this beast as well. She is the queen beast. She is the queen, right? This is important. This, like, you could imagine this in some sort of fantasy where the king is getting in trouble and like got in trouble, and the knights are like, no, we're good. He's safe. Don't worry. You know, like you can totally imagine this in any other setting, but they all lower themselves. This isn't an acting trick.
Yeah.
Know that she has power.
Yeah. They're being like subservient to her. They're like treating her because they now know that like she is their queen, because they now know that she loves him, according to what Ren said.
Yeah.
Ren was like,
well, and MJ was even there. He heard it.
Gawain.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Gawain was there. Yes.
Yeah. He heard it. So he was, and like,
they don't want her to be upset, because that would make Tom upset. Like literally they realize like the power dynamic there, and they're all now unfortunately lesser to her.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone is lesser to her now because of the power that she holds over the king.
As a queen, that is the power that she holds. Exactly.
Because she can turn the king any way she wants.
Exactly. And I love that.
This is such like,
yeah. They all leave. They all decide. They all leave. They're like, oh, we'll give you guys a moment. Like it's so subservient. It's so interesting from a mythological perspective.
We will leave the court so the king and the queen, can have a moment.
Exactly.
What?
Not knowing what's about to happen. Because oh my God. So I love that part though, where she's like, are you sure? And they all three of them nod at the same time. Like they all nod at the same time. It's really, really cute. And Ren approaches and is like, we figured it out. We sorted it out. Now it's time for you to sort out like your feelings between each other. So they leave, and that's also Ren calls out the fact before they leave that she actually said my boyfriend.
Yeah. I love her denial. I meant to say boy band. Yeah, but I mean, we know where her brain is at. She's like, no, that's my monster. That's my baby king. Like she has a sense of ownership over him. She's accepted that he is hers.
Exactly.
Like, this is so key.
It's a female power fantasy. I mean, this is a female power fantasy.
It is. Yeah. Like we can talk about that. Just watch all of Ty's videos. So you'll like, that's where we're at. But it is important that she has this sense of ownership. She hasn't owned it officially yet, because they're not at that point in their story, and she's in a little bit of a denial period, but she'll accept the concept of it.
Exactly. Which it comes out in those moments where she is vulnerable and she's reacting and she's hot-headed. That's really important. So she denies it, and then we get the scene later where the F3 are walking away from the whole situation, and they're like, Ren, like why did you do this? And he kind of chuckles, and this comes back to like the Hana Yori Dango and the Korean Boys Over Flowers version, where he's like,
it's in the manga.
It is in the manga.
It is in the manga post 3 versus 3.
Okay.
He has a quick conversation before he spends the night with Goya. That's like
yes.
thing. And the guys are like, why did you do all of this? But he's like, well, you remember when, or no, it's actually Tom, like the Tom character, Tsukasa, who says, do you think that Ren or Ryu is upset about his stuffed toy?
Right. Like,
right. So it is at this point in the story, right? It is about this in some way, because again, baby monsters, he's still upset about his toy, but he also understands he has to teach his friend a lesson.
Exactly. I love this because it really kind of like rounds out the whole story. It all kind of comes full circle, which is so interesting. It's like, I was still mad at him about that, but I got back at him, so we're good now. Baby monsters.
Okay, I got to talk just ever so briefly about private sanctuary moments.
Oh my goodness, yes, this setting is so cool.
Okay, so
oh my god,
so this is like the like concept that we're gonna hide away. This is again a repeat of the two other hideaway moments that they've had, which is in the stairwell and then in the closet.
Right.
This is hidden beneath probably the bleachers or something like that, right? So
yeah.
It's raining, they're stuck together. I don't know if it's raining or if it's just dripping from the bleachers at this point, because it's not raining where the guys are, but it is the idea that they're hiding away and like healing together. It's a repeat of the closet especially, but when they're licking their wounds, they're actually healing and expressing their true selves to each other. It's quite a common romantic trope, especially in Bollywood movies and other like Hollywood movies, where like the couple gets stuck in the rain somewhere. But it's really romantic that they can't escape, and yet they're also together. And I cannot get over the fact that he actually said, I understand where I went wrong.
Yeah. Oh my god, there's so much that's admitted in this moment. This is so important. Like, people also need to see people, the violence, the arc of violence, and the arc of him understanding where he went wrong and all of that. What's really essential to it is Goya herself saying, I never really tried to understand you.
Yep.
So she's admitting that she did a lot of things wrong because she doesn't know how to handle him sometimes. She doesn't know how to react to him. And this is really important for relationships, because if you don't try to understand someone, like if you don't understand like the things that make them angry or the things that really set them off, like it could be something silly.
And try to understand their perspective of how they, like what their logic was in that moment or what they were feeling, right?
Yeah, when
and
somebody
she understands
says
you were frustrated, you were hurt.
Yes, and she understands it now because she saw it from his perspective, because she saw the Tesla that he saw. So this is a tiny step. This is not everything, because Goya still doesn't know him the way that she needs to know him. But this is important because it points out the fact that like Goya she's at fault in certain ways, just as he is at fault in other ways. They both need to try to be better to each other. She needs to understand him better. She needs to learn more about him, which we get a lot in the next scene. But this also requires her to ask questions, and she doesn't do that a lot. And that's very indicative of like the character in the manga and the character like in every version. She doesn't ask him questions. And that's what leads to a lot of conflict, a lot of misunderstandings, is that she's not trying to get to know him, whereas he's doing the opposite, and he's always trying to see where she's at.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle.
And in previous versions, I always feel like she's an incredibly silent character. Because she doesn't express how she's feeling, whereas this version really gives us a lot. And also, like, one thing I want to say is the show will always tell us exactly it will explain itself.
Yeah.
Like this show literally explained everything to the audience in the text, in the actual script.
Yeah.
The symbolism 100%. Is all there. The acting is all there. The musical cues are all there, but it will still take the time to actually, so there's nothing left up for chance. He understands that he was a monster. He understands where he was. He understands, like, and in the next scene that we'll go to, he understands where he was and where he needs to be, and that he's trying to make changes.
Exactly. Yeah. And he admits everything. I can't stay mad at you. You're the only one I love. I was a horrible person. And then he picks her up and he says, I want to show you something. and takes her outside of the stadium, shows her the stadium from this perspective, which I found really interesting because I was like, I thought that they were going to go to like, he was going to show her, this is where I fell in love with you.
No, this is better because this
is better.
Okay.
Oh, this is so good.
To me, this is important because he actually burdens her with his curse. Right.
Ooh.
So
she's his queen now, so she has to take on the responsibility.
So she has to take on his baggage. This is like, this is something about relationships that nobody tells you in the manual. Right. So when you are in a relationship, a heteronormative or a non-poly relationship, but any poly relationship as well. When you're in a relationship with another person, you have to take on a certain amount of their garbage, baggage, shadow.
Yeah.
Right. Their curse. And for Goya, that is her lack of wealth and the vulnerability of her situation. For Tom, it is this expectation and curse that he is under to fulfill a kingship of sorts. And the expectation of his mother especially, and that expectation was given that he can only exist in the world through killing, and by killing and quote unquote violence, right? You must be a killer. You must be mean. You must be a predator. You must be a predator. You must rule through pain. And I didn't catch it, but he's removed his animal skin at this point.
Yeah, he had his jacket on his arm. I love that so much.
He has removed his animalism to tell her about his wound and where the wound started and his shadow, but that he's going to try and carry that through his understanding of what she's shown him. And not only that, I'm going to try and be a good king.
Yes. This
goes way past just canceling the red card for you, Goya.
Yep.
I'm going to cancel the red card for everybody. Everyone. The kingdom will be better.
Yep. We're going to do this together.
We're going to rule together. There's going to be no more unjust laws.
Yep.
We're closing the stadium. And Goya recognizes, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. So, okay. So when he starts talking about his destiny, right? And again, this brings me back to the archetype.
Curse too.
This is a curse.
Being destined to do something is a curse.
Exactly. This is a lot of pressure. This is something that was put on him. This is a generational curse. And he starts talking about it, and the music starts to get this very epic sound to it. It starts to feel like it's really important. It's like we're watching a movie about, it's like a King Arthur sort of tale.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we're actually watching.
Which is a high school drama.
It's a high school drama, yeah. But it's really King Arthur talking about his court and talking about he's willing to lay down his sword and he's willing to give up his kingdom for this girl, for this woman. And it goes back and it shows us, and I love that it's in black and white. It's in black and white. They show him as a child with all of this responsibility thrust upon him at such a young age, where he says, I was born greater and more special than anyone.
But I can never live it up to it. Oh.
He is the divine child. He is the divine child. He is the king. He is the finger of God, like whatever you want to call it. Like he's the cursed tyrant. He's the cursed prince. He is like, honestly, it's like one of the coolest archetypes ever. It really is.
It is.
And he shuts his kingdom. Not his kingdom, his court. He shuts down his court. And he says, I hate Tom when he's drunk with power. I hate the Tom that uses violence to solve problems. And he says, I want you to accept me, not my family name.
And he makes the promise that he will not use violence anymore.
I will not use violence. And he takes the paint the spray paint
and crosses it out with the white, like the white, I've made the white decision,
right decision. Yes.
The right decision, right? Like, light night decision, right? Like I'm making the just decision.
Exactly.
Okay. I love them. And the joke about the entree versus no entry. So funny.
It was so cute.
So cute. Okay. Let's talk about abandoning the stadium.
All right. So Marie Claire and I had the same idea about this.
We take notes in the same document, but in different places. And then we sometimes read each other's and then make comments on each other's. It's really funny. I'm like,
I like literally the exact same, like, this is not going to bode well for them.
This is not good.
This is not good. So MC and I talk a lot about shadows, and we talk a lot about like how you have to incorporate those shadows. I feel like the stadium is a shadow at this point. The stadium is where all these bad things happened. You can't just shut it away and pretend like it's not there anymore. Like,
it has created its own monsters. Like we know by them allowing the beating up of people. All of those people in the court have become monsters.
Yeah. I mean,
and so like, this is where we're like, oh, maybe it's going to be that person.
Yeah. Like we said in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. It's like the reason why this has to come back in the form of the minions that he has created, right? Is because those people are now
cursed.
They are cursed because of him. So you cannot just close the court.
No,
you have to heal the kingdom.
It has to be healed. It has to be. And we're literally wrote on the same thing, because like, I don't know. This isn't our first rodeo with mythological symbols. Like, so how I picture this is like the stadium gets revamped.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It no longer has the swampy water that can make you sick in the bottom. It's actually a place for Goya to play basketball or something, right? Like, it's something along those lines where it actually gets fully renovated.
Yeah, I love that idea. I haven't been able to find the location for this. I haven't found the filming location for this. I've been doing some deep research into like where they film at the school, where they film at the zoo, like in Bangkok and whatnot. And I cannot find this location. So I want to know like how much of this is a set and how much of this are they going to like change. And like you say, like, because somebody also had a really good comment on the previous episode where they said something along the lines of, I would love to see at the end of this where they all go back to the stadium, and instead of a bunch of like, bully goons kind of watching it happen, they're all applauding Tom for like, proposing to Goya or something like that. Like like that happens, and that would be like the end of the story, is the proposal or something like that. And I can totally see something like that happening.
The stadium would have to be like cleaned up and healed, just like Beauty and the Beast castle.
Exactly.
This is really emblematic of the Beast castle. This is really important, and why we were like, oh no, this isn't gonna bode well.
No.
Because I mean, again, the curse is still there. Like, he's still in black. He still has his animal skin. He is still, he's there, but it's important that he can take it off in front of her.
Yes, very much.
He took it off in front of her.
Yeah.
Such a good choice. He's showing how raw he is, how cursed he is to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, oh my God, they're so cute. I love them with their texts.
I was so upset like that this is where this episode ended. Like,
really?
they could not, like, you could not give me this and then just end this. Like, this is so mean. It's so mean. So yeah, we get the are you home now, girlfriend? I'm not your girlfriend. It was a slip. Whatever. It counts this time. Which is so cute. And then she walks inside and we get the mom and her.
You get his little emojis again.
That's right. He did. Stickers. He sent her a bunch of stickers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now she finds it cute. which
that's right. And not annoying. Yeah.
Is good. Yeah.
It's good. It is.
Maybe you only sent her 3 instead of like 60. So
so funny. Yeah. So we get the mom at the home. And for those that know the story, this is typical. Like the mom is going to come to her house and going to try to do something to make her not be with our male lead anymore, and it's going to be really interesting to see how everyone reacts.
There's a little bit of a tinkling sound, like a wind chime or something in the background when she sees the mom. It was like this person has magical power.
Yeah, she's a different kind of witch.
This is a goddess level person.
She's a spiteful goddess. She's like
she's a vengeful
goddess. Yeah, exactly.
This is important because unlimited power, right? Except for over the hearts of the people she wants to control.
Totally.
And love versus the empire, basically.
This is great. This is great. I love it. All right.
How does this show keep on like being amazing?
It's incredible. It's so incredible. There's so much that happened in this episode. Like I was like, we're going to talk about this forever. And we've talked about this forever. So good for us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just, shout out to Ty who puts together, the clips and all of this stuff, and then like in your spare moments makes amazing edits that are liked by the director of the series that we're both F4 obsessed with.
That was fun.
I do want to say, like, please do like this video. Please do subscribe to Ty and hang on to the bell icon. We're going to be here until April.
Exactly.
And it also really helps if you share out this episode so that we can get more people having conversations. We're working on an hopeful plan to get in contact with the crew and maybe get like even a written interview, because we want to ask them about this stuff closer to the end. And it would help if we gained a little bit more platform to do that.
Yeah, MC has interviewed professionals in the Star Wars fandom. She has a really good reputation in the Star Wars fandom for that. She's really good at interviewing people. We've done it together as well on a couple occasions, and honestly, like
this would be our dream come true, to be able to ask questions of this production.
The questions that we would ask are we would definitely try to get the right questions asked. Like we would definitely fish for the right stuff. So I really would love for that to happen. We're also we have the ability to get a translator, so that's another thing. It's exciting because we could talk to the director. So please definitely give us some more amplification if you possibly can. That would always be helpful. So interact with the video however you possibly can, or interact with wherever you're listening to this to. Interact as much as you can.
So. Yeah, and if you're part of like groups on Facebook or Reddit or wherever you happen to be talking about this, sharing out our episodes really, really does help get it to more people. Again, exactly. I always recommend, if this is your first episode you're listening to and you're like, wow, what were they talking about? We've been talking about symbolism through the whole thing. So I highly recommend that you go back and listen to the previous deep dives or watch the previous deep dive videos, because it will help you get caught up. It's almost impossible for us to remind you every single video of all of the symbolism. We're gonna figure out a way to do a shorthand, maybe for mid-season.
Feels like a year.
Just to remind people of where we're standing from the big symbolic themes that we're seeing. I think that would be a really good thing, just to be like, hey, setting everybody's expectations, these are what these things mean, and we've seen 8 episodes of it to prove it.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do something for that, so that it's easier to share, it's quicker. So we're definitely going to do that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for interacting. And honestly, like, let us know in the comments how you felt about kind of the bigger themes or the smaller details or whatever you were thinking about. We'd love to see you guys provide like big analyses for these things, because it always seems like there's an endless amount of stuff to talk about.
And we miss stuff.
And we miss stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So please let us know.
This community that we've kind of created around this and like you've been part of has just given us so much joy. And like the fandom at this point in the show, although this was a very hard episode to watch, has been so good. Like it's just so much fun. And we know that this story is just something we all love and we're all F4 obsessed and we're all along for the ride. And we're here for all of this for you.
100%. #facts. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this. Please, interact with the video however you can, and we'll see you guys next week. Woohoo!
Yep.
All right. Bye, guys.